Hello, hello. Are we live? Let's see if I'm live. Yep, looks good. All right, welcome back to my font project. We are parsing fonts from TTF files, and then we are rendering text all in Fortran and exporting a PPM image so that we end up with something that looks like this. This looks terrible. This is a work in progress. But yesterday we were able to typeset any string, so you can write a string and then have this program typeset it. These exclamation marks aren't supposed to be here. There should be spaces instead of exclamation marks, but we can do Latin text. We can do Cyrillic and Greek. I think I actually deleted all of that. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Let me grab some example Unicode text because my keyboard is QWERTY, or technically Dvorak, but you know, these are the keys on it. I don't have Cyrillic or Greek keys. So where is it? Here we go. Here's some text. So we should see some Cyrillic text because that's the last one before we actually call the function to typeset the text. Quickly reload that. There we go, there's Cyrillic text. In addition to the exclamation marks, the kerning is totally fucked up. What's up, Connie? You joined the stream early today. I'm only like 2 minutes in. So yeah, the kerning is fucked up. Like this capital P should take up more space. I don't know the name of this letter. The pi looking thing. You know what I mean? It sounds like the letter P in English. So that should take up more space than like the lowercase r or rho. So there shouldn't be this much space in between the rho and the eta. I don't know. I'm calling these by like the Greek names, but I don't know. I don't know the names of them in Russian. Connie says it's a P. Cool. Yeah, I don't know the names of the Cyrillic alphabet. Like I know how to like read it phonetically for the most part, except for the ones that are pronounced weird. But I don't actually know the names of the letters. Yeah, so we can typeset that. And we can do Greek. If we just comment that out, we'll get this Greek string. While it's running, the log tells you which strings it's typesetting, so we can do multiple strings on different lines and different sizes and everything. So there is Greek text. Yeah, and I'm trying to reproduce this demo image from the Wikipedia page of the Computer Modern font, because Computer Modern is the font that I've been using for most of my testing, and they have this test image here. So it says Computer Modern at the top, there's a space. Where's the X though? Oh, yeah, from Matrix, it overflowed. So it went past the right edge of the canvas. You would think like there's enough space for the X there, isn't there? Again, the kerning is fucked up, so if you look at like the space from the A to the T, this is just a fixed distance from the left bound of each letter to the next. That's the way that I'm kerning things. I'm not actually parsing anything from the kern table or like I think the HTMX table has data about how much you're supposed to advance after each letter. Yeah, so the X it's off the right edge. Maybe just try making everything a mono font. Yeah, so this basically is a mono font. Everything is proportionally spaced, even though it shouldn't be for this font. But if I used a mono font, maybe this would look better. That's a good idea because I can use different fonts. So when I use my run script, it already has the name of the font hard coded, but I can try another font. I don't know if this is going to work because I haven't tried it yet. I think I have Calibri in here. That's likely to have Cyrillic and Greek text, because if I don't have Cyrillic and Greek letters defined, I might run into trouble. Worst case scenario, we should just end up with the undefined glyph marker. Oh, no. Yeah, so I have some restrictions on the type of CMAP formats that I can support. So this has a non-zero ID range, and I can't work with that yet. So Calibri doesn't work, at least not with those letters. Maybe the Greek text is problematic. I have to rebuild. Yeah, I have some work to do to support Calibri, apparently. What about Cooper Black? Because Cooper Black looks kind of cool. That's not even format 4. What format is it? Because I print out some basic information about the font, like the version and the font version and the units per M, which is like the size of the font in the internal units, and then the date and the number of glyphs. So I think I want to print the format because I'm curious about that. Fira code should have non-Latin character support. I can try to download that in a minute. So I want to print the format regardless of what it is. Oh, come on, man. So this is an integer 4 string conversion helper. It's time for me to make some interfaces if I can remember how to do this. This is I32 if I use consistent naming. If we should put the number of bits in the name, not the number of bytes, even though Fortran uses the number of bytes. So I want this, and I want a 64-bit version. Let's put these in the other order so that they're sorted, ascending numeric order. And then this type is different. And let's be explicit about this type, even though it's just the default. Yeah, and then the bodies of these functions are exactly the same. I don't really know how to do generic functions in Fortran, or like it's the same function, it's just taking a different type of argument. There might be a way to do it, but I haven't really looked into it. So I just copy and paste, but I want to refer to these functions as toString. I don't want to have to worry about the specific name of it. So let's see if I remember how to do that. It's probably wrong. Oh my god. Okay, CMAP format 0. Is that even a thing? Okay, there is a format 0. I was worried that like it started at 1 and format 0 isn't even a thing, and I was doing something horribly wrong with parsing the Cooper Black font. Yeah, maybe I need to support some more CMAP formats, but I'm definitely not doing this today. So in theory, this library should work with more than one font, but I have a lot of restrictions on the CMAP format, so for now it only works with CMAP format 4, and then there are more restrictions beyond that, like when I tried to do Calibri. It is format 4, but it has this non-zero ID range offset, so that's something else that I don't support yet. So in theory, this should work with multiple fonts, but right now it kind of only works with Computer Modern. Let's see, let's try Code. Maybe I just want to go to the Nerd Font website. Mono. I guess that's the same. Oh, Code. Okay, yeah. I hate when websites are laid out like this because, like, do I click the download button above Code or do I click the download button below Code? One time I was ordering wings for takeout and I clicked the wrong one and I got like 2 wings instead of 4 wings. So then I had to go back and make a separate order. Looks like I got that. Let's paste that into here. Code is basically just mono with ligatures. Oh, cool. I don't support ligatures yet. Actually, it's a good thing you brought that up. Because I'd like to do that eventually. Ligatures. It's on the roadmap. So I'm guessing this might be a whole family of fonts with like italic and Roman versions. I'm not sure what the license is on these fonts, so I put these in my Scratch directory so I don't like upload something to GitHub that I'm breaking a license for. Yeah, sorry. Going back to basic Vim. Okay, SIL open font license. So I should be able to share that if I can even read it. If my library can't read it right now, then there's no point. Okay, so we have bold, light, medium, regular. Let's try regular. And there's mono regular and propo regular. And then just regular. I'll try the mono regular. All right, it was in like a subdirectory. Wow, that did something. I'm surprised. Looks pretty cool. I mean, the kerning, it's still wrong because it's too wide. I'm just hard coding like, I think 60% of the M or 70% of the M size. I'm using that for my spacing, and that's probably too much, at least for this font. So I definitely have more work to do with the kerning. By the way, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do today. I feel like I did a lot yesterday. We got the CMAP table working, we got Unicode working. Uh, so I kind of feel like taking it easy today. I'd like to fix these exclamation marks if I can. But beyond that, I don't really have any big plans for today. Uh, for the future, I'm planning to fill in the contours. So right now you just see the outline of the font. That's not how it's supposed to be. Uh, that might take a while, so I'm not going to start that today. And the other big thing is kerning, or I think kerning is the wrong word. I want to do something simpler than kerning, just like read read the width of the character from the font file and use that at least. Yeah, but at least it's consistent now. So I think I can probably make it look a little bit better for this font. Uh, it's not even in here, it's inside the library. Yeah, so it's hard-coded right here at 70% of the M. That's what I'm using for my spacing between characters. So if I put that down to 60, let's do 50%, because it looked pretty wide for this font. And then reload this. That's a little bit too small, maybe 55%. Yeah, I think that looks okay. Obviously, like the N of computer modern is still overflowing, and part of the T. This T might be kind of hard to see. It's a white foreground, and the outlines are pretty thin. So yeah, we still have things overflowing. Yeah, so I want to fix these exclamation marks today, and I want more testing. Yeah, the X is there finally, so that helped a little bit. I want more testing because I have like 2 tests for my Unicode transcoding. Uh, by the way, I should explain how the Unicode transcoding works. So if we look at the UTF source code, at the top there's a comment that this was stolen from the Rosetta Code website. They have an example on UTF-8 encoding and decoding. So if you Google that, you can find this. If I remember, I will put this link in the description. Actually, I'll put it in the README right now. That way I can't forget. So that will be in the README, and the link to my GitHub repository will definitely be in the description, if you're watching this on YouTube at least. So yeah, the Rosetta Code page has a C example. Let me go back to the top of the page. So they give you a character, and your task for this Rosetta Code problem is to convert that to and from the Unicode code point between the Unicode code point and UTF-8. So UTF-8 is like a stream of 8 bits per, I don't know the terminology here, but it's a series of 8 bits. Some of them are just one group of 8 bits. Some characters are 2 groups of 8 bits. Some are 3 or 4. So you have to convert between that UTF-8 representation and the Unicode code point, which it's kind of always 4 bytes. Unicode code points are the same as UTF-32, at least as far as my understanding. So they give you some characters to translate there, Latin letter A, O with umlauts, a Cyrillic character, the euro sign, and the musical G clef. So they give you code in C that does this, and then I basically translated this from C to Fortran. I think you've seen me do enough bitwise operations on the day where I wrote the ppm image writer. So you probably didn't need to watch me translate this into Fortran. It's the same stuff. It's just a bunch of bit shifting operations and bitwise or, bitwise not, bitwise and. So it's a lot of that. Also, we have to have these tables hard coded at the beginning. So that's how this works. It has these same tables from the C code hard coded here. Then we have functions to get the length in bytes of each representation, whether it's UTF-8 or UTF-32. Then we have functions for converting single characters between UTF-8 and UTF-32 and back in the other direction. And then we have functions for converting whole strings from UTF-8 to 32 and back in the other direction. So that's some of the stuff that I did off screen. So I want more tests for this because I have a couple tests that go round trip, but round trip tests aren't always the best. So this is a round trip test. It takes this cali string in Greek. It converts it from UTF-8. Whenever I have code in my text editor, it's UTF-8, so I convert from that to UTF-32, and then I convert back to UTF, and I compare that to the original string. So I do that with cali, and I do that with privyet in Russian. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I don't speak Russian. But this is really not a very extensible way to do tests because I have to write like 6 lines of code, 5 or 6 lines of code per test, but I could easily do this with an array. So I could have an array that holds all of my strings and then iterate through that array and test each of them round trip. So I want to do round trip tests for Unicode, but I also want to just do one-way conversion and check that I'm getting the proper code points. Because a problem with round trip testing is that what if these are just identity functions and you're not converting anything and you're just returning this same string without changing the encoding? Like these tests would still pass if you did that, but it's not really the behavior that you want from these functions. So I'd like to test that too. First, I need an array of strings. Fortran is really bad with arrays of strings. You have 2 options. You can either make your own type for an array of strings, or you can use built-in Fortran types, but they have to have, like, all the strings have to have the same length in the array. Open and go clean the kitchen. All right, yeah, thanks for tuning in, Connie. I really appreciate the viewership. So I think I'm just going to use a built-in string, but every string in the array is going to have the same length. Kind of forget how to do that. Let's see if I can remember. STRs for strings. So this is going to be an array. And I want these 2 strings to start out with, so I'll copy and paste them from there because the formatting is a little bit easier. when you have a line of code in Fortran that continues on to the next line, you have to end the first line with an ampersand. So that's what these ampersands are for. So this is probably wrong. Also, I have to now pad these so that they're, oh, this is going to be a pain with Unicode. Because like the number of characters that you see here isn't the number of bytes in the string. So like I know that this is 10 bytes. Hey, Justice Flugel, welcome to the stream. Thanks for tuning in. So I have no idea. All these strings have to be the same length because I'm using a built-in Fortran array. If I don't, some of them are going to get trimmed, I think. So I have no idea if this is right. Let's see if I can build that. Nope, I can't. I wouldn't want to do font rendering manually. This is sort of a crazy project. There's no good reason to do that. There's definitely no good reason to do it in Fortran, but here I am. I'm persisting anyway. I can't remember how to make an array of strings, so I'm just going to look at my old project, which has code that does this. I try to do a lot of things on stream without like referencing my previous projects, but I'm gonna cheat in this instance. This is my interpreter, by the way. Why Fortran? I just like Fortran. I've been using Fortran for about 10 years in various professional contexts, so I know Fortran better than I know any other programming language. You're currently using Rust? I've done a little bit of Rust. I'm not a Rust expert. Here we go. This is how you do an array of strings in Fortran. So I'm just going to copy that. And you notice that these all have to be the same length. So a lot of these are padded with extra white space because I have one string that's that long. So then all of the other strings in the array have to be the same length. And I do that by padding them with spaces. So that's the downside to using the built-in string arrays in Fortran. You have to pad them to be consistent lengths. I forgot parameter. Currently implementing a proc macro to easily create lectures for one of our DSLs. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, my last project was an interpreter for my own programming language, so did a lot of lexing there. Lexing was the easy part, and then like the hard part is parsing and evaluating. But for your DSL, I don't know what your DSL is. I'm sure there's some interesting lexing work to do there. I kind of wonder how close I was with that. So let's see if this compiles. It doesn't like that. Why doesn't it like the closing bracket? Why doesn't it like the closing bracket? So I have a comma here in between my array values, but I don't have a trailing comma at the end. That's the way it's supposed to be. But at the end of every line, I have an ampersand. Okay, what if I do this all? Oh, I have too many opening brackets. There we go. Now I get an error that some of my strings are different lengths. maybe I need one more space here. This is the problem because in this other project, all of my strings were ASCII. So I could easily pad them by just looking at the characters and saying, well, like this is the longest one, so this one needs to be just as many characters. But now that I'm working with UTF-8 strings, I don't really know how many bytes are in this string. I can see how many characters there are. There are 6 characters, but I don't know how many bytes that is. Why do I need to pad the string manually? That's just the way that Fortran is. If you don't want to do this, then you can make a user-defined type for an array of strings. The issue with that is that you can't have it be a constant, or Fortran calls constants parameters instead of constants. So if you have a user-defined type, I don't know of a good way to like initialize it. And then you have to push things to the array, and to do that you have to make dynamic arrays. So like it's a lot of work. I did it for this other project. I think I have string pushing functions somewhere. I have like push functions that push things into dynamic arrays, but it's sort of a lot of work. I'm trying to keep things simple in this project. So if I can use the built-in array, I will. The only issue is that I need to pad the string. But padding the string seems like more work than making dynamic arrays and user-defined types. Right, that compiles now. So that now that we have an array of strings, I can do these unit tests a little more elegantly. First of all, let's run the tests because I didn't run that. So you see I have 4 tests. Should be able to keep 4 tests. First of all, let's just print the string to see if I can loop through it. Instead of for loops, Fortran calls them do loops. I just don't understand why still use Fortran for new projects if you have newer, higher level languages like Zig or Rust or V or even C++. Yeah, I like Fortran. It's very good with arrays. Arrays are easier in Fortran than probably all of those languages that you just mentioned. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good example of that. Yeah, well, let me just go all the way into my interpreter project. I think I have Rust examples somewhere in here. Bunch of stuff in there. I think I have Rust source code here. Looking for a matrix multiplication example. Oh, I know. So, here's my Rust project. So this is a matrix multiplication function in Rust. I'm not a Rust expert, so you can probably write this slightly better than I am, but like, look at this. This is how you have a matrix argument in Rust. Like, this is so ugly. In Fortran, this function, the function signature, would look like function molmat for A, B, result C, end function and then your types are, these are floats. We have float 32. So in Fortran that is real. Fortran calls them reals instead of floats. You have A, it's rank 2, B, it's rank 2, C is rank 2. So instead of like a nested array of arrays in Rust, this is how you declare rank 2 arrays in Fortran, and it's a lot smoother. I would write my functions to take any generic iterator instead of slices. Yeah, I'm not a Rust expert, so I don't know how to do that. But I think it's a lot cleaner in Fortran. And then to add matrices in Fortran, so forget about multiplication. You just do C equals A plus B. That's it. You don't need a loop. You don't need a map. It's that easy. But I don't want to go off onto a tangent of like Rust versus Fortran, so I want to keep like a little bit of focus here. Yeah, so first I just want to print these strings to see if I can iterate through them. And algebra, yeah, and algebra or ND array. I looked into those a little bit, but like sometimes I don't want to use a third party. Like I would like it if these were just built into the language. And with Fortran, all that stuff is built into the language. I forgot to declare I. There we go. I can print the strings from the array. Now I can test the transcoding of those arrays. Actually, I'm just going to paste this whole block. Whoa. Didn't want to type that. Okay, so now instead of this string, we can transcode the thing from the array. So notice we went from 4 tests down to 2 tests. This should bring us back up to 4 tests. There we go. So now that we can do this with an array, I want to add a few more tests. So let's do just a regular old Latin string. How many characters is this? I think it has to be 12. All right, that worked. See, it's not too hard to pad strings. Yeah, Latin, Greek. Let's do some numbers. And let's grab some better tests. I have too many tabs open now. Way too many tabs. Okay, that's manageable. can see that my text editor doesn't even render a lot of this Unicode correctly. If I want to, I have to use nvimqt outside of WSL. So I can show you that there are actual characters here. But I really like to work in WSL because then I can use tmux. And this is like the only way that I know how to use tmux on Windows. But if you want to look at Unicode characters, yeah, so you can see there's the integral of e.da. There are actual characters here. It's not just entirely unknown glyphs. Yeah, emojis and different screen colors or flags. I did test emojis a little bit outside of here, but I need to add this in the unit tests because I think it should work. It won't display in my text editor. I could probably use mingw64. Yeah, that might be true. Yeah, maybe. I think git bash uses mingw. Yeah, and git bash does render some of these emojis correctly that I was testing earlier. So those should work. Fern of Sigma, welcome back to the stream. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a while. Okay, so those all seem to be working. I probably don't want to spend too much time doing this on stream. Let's get a Georgian example. Hope that's not too many bytes. Because if I go over 12 bytes of Unicode, then I have to go back and pad all of the other strings. Yeah, I was trying to fix my skill issues. Well, that sounds like a good use of your time. Okay, so that took me up to 18 bytes. I don't speak Georgian. I can't even read this alphabet, but it feels wrong to just cut off part of this word and use that as a test. So I think I'm going to go back and pad all of the other strings. That wasn't so bad. All right, there we go. That's not rendering at all. Let's try running this in mingw to see if that renders Georgian text. I probably have to clean before building. Yeah, so CMake complains that like if I try to build it in WSL and then build it outside of WSL, CMake thinks that I'm using like a different compiler or something, so it refuses to do anything. Currently enjoy using new shell plus starship plus, I don't even know how to pronounce that with a Z, and Helix for my editor as my dev env. Yeah, I should look into some different shells. I really like using tmux though. I started using tmux a month or two ago. And I think I have to use WSL to run that. Hey, there we go, Georgian text. Oh, and it renders the, yeah, like it does everything. The integral. Zeli or Zelage is an alternative to tmux. Okay, a bit more modern. Yeah, now, I spent a lot of time ricing tmux, so I've kind of sunk a lot of cost into tmux there. Yeah, maybe I should try Zeli. Uh, do those run on Windows? What operating system are you using? I think I'm ready to commit now that I have a few more tests. Arch Linux. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of have to use Windows for work. I have to use multiple operating systems. Like I have to use Linux too, but I sort of have to have a Windows workstation with ZFS as my root file system. Okay. Yeah, I would like to use Linux more if I could, but like I sort of have restrictions that aren't up to me. I think I might want to undo some of that. So this was 0.7. That looked okay for Computer Modern. Oh, reboot to Windows. So you're dual booting. Is WSL incompatible with the software that I use? Uh, no. Well, okay. Try to install nerd fonts inside WSL. Maybe that will help render the weird characters. Yeah, thanks for the tip, and welcome to the stream, MDS Ubuntu. Okay, but I think I want to commit right here. And it supports WSL. Cool. Oh, the new Windows terminal? Yeah. Uh, I've tried the new Windows terminal. This is it. I feel like I get lag coming from somewhere if I run an Ubuntu shell and run WSL within this. Like something is slow. I don't know if it's Windows Terminal or WSL or tmux or which part of my pipeline it is. But if I use Windows Terminal, it's too slow. So I think I can go in and tmux A here, and then like the window is weirdly sized, so maybe I have to detach from the other one. So yeah, like this shows Georgian characters, but like I just don't move around as fast in Vim. Like just scrolling up and down line by line, there's a little bit of a lag. So that's why I don't like to use Windows Terminal. I don't know what the problem is. Maybe it's not Windows Terminal, but something is slow. But like, yeah, the Unicode text renders, so it's got that going for it. All right, Justice is going to reboot to the other operating system. Use arrays and add more UTF transcoding tests. All right, so I wanted to do more transcoding tests, and I also want to do one-way testing for like UTF-8 to UTF-32, as opposed to round-trip testing. So I want to add some tests for that, and then we'll just hard code like the code points that we expect. want to see if I've broken anything in CI because I have automated testing running on GitHub as well for this project. So Ubuntu already passed. Let's take a look at that and make sure that it ran the right number of tests. Yeah, so this is running 8 tests now on the cloud, and that all worked. And GitHub can render this text pretty well. All right. Yeah, now I want to do one-way testing. So this is like round-trip testing. It converts my string from UTF-8 to UTF-32, and then it converts it back to UTF-8, and it checks that it gets back to what it started with. So that's a round-trip test. Now I want to do some one-way testing. I guess I want a separate function for that, or a separate subroutine. I think I want to go from UTF-8 to 32. All right, Justice is back. Oh, and these comments are wrong. So I'll just delete those. Windows now prompts me to update. Yeah, that's a big issue. I think I'm good with updates. It's been like a couple weeks maybe since I've had to update Windows, but it is annoying about that. So this is a round trip UTF-8 to UTF-32 and back to UTF-8 test. This is one way UTF-8 to UTF-32 testing. The updates get me every time, so I seldomly reboot to Windows. Yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe the only reason to use Windows for you is gaming. Other than that, just avoid Windows as much as possible. I kind of have problems with every operating system. I don't like any of them. There are things I don't like about Windows. There are things I don't like about Windows. Or Linux. I can't remember what I just said. And there are definitely things that I don't like about Mac OS. I think Mac OS might be my least favorite. Anyway, I don't want to start like a flame war about operating systems in the chat. I like that I can customize my env just how I want on Linux. Yeah, I'm basically doing that in Windows. So like I have my tmux totally riced and neovim totally riced. So I might as well just use Linux, but I kind of have to use Windows for work. I don't know if I want an array just yet. For example, currently running Wayland plus Hyperland as my compositor and window manager, so a tiling window manager with dynamic tiling. Yeah, I need to get better with a window manager. I've recently started using like the Alt Tab on Windows, but it's good for like switching between 2 different windows. Like if I go to Chrome and then back to Ubuntu or WSL, it's good for that. But once you get more than 2 windows, it's not very convenient. Especially if I want to like minimize this window so that you can see my cool transparent background. It's not as great with that. So at least I'm not using the mouse as much as I used to. So I think I want to just take the example from Rosetta Code. because they show the code points there. If I close that tab, virtual workspaces for the win. So I think I want to test exactly these characters. And I think I had those somewhere. In tiling window managers, windows usually don't overlap. Yeah. Wait, where's the... They don't do the glyph in the Python example. Okay, I think I already have these somewhere. So trust me, this unknown character is a musical glyph. Going to call this str. And then I want to convert this to UTF-32. Somehow Windows just feels so much slower to me. Yeah, like I had to do a lot of work to figure out that I needed to run Ubuntu directly in WSL. Like there are different ways to run WSL in Windows. I can't show you my start menu, or I can if I click on it. So like you can do WSL, or you can do Ubuntu. I'm not sure if those two are the same, but then you can also run from within Windows Terminal. This is Windows Terminal command prompt. You can run Ubuntu here. And that's what I wanted to do because this shell is better with Unicode text and like it just generally looks nicer. But like it's slow and I don't know why it's slow. So like I had to do a lot of work to find a Windows workflow that wasn't slow. Yeah, Ubuntu is just one distribution. Yeah, there are others. I haven't really tried the other ones. Okay, so we have a string. UTF-8 is bytes, so I use the character type in Fortran, but then for UTF-32, I'm using integers because those are 4 bytes. So integer has to be 4 bytes, and it's allocatable because it's like a string of 4-byte code points. Let's call that str32, and then we're going to convert that. And let's just print that first of all. And I have to make sure that I'm calling this, but they both have the same name. Test2 UTF. So these are decimal. I want to print these in hex because Rosetta code These things in Unicode are hex. So if I print those in hex, I can verify that these are right before I really add these into my tests. So I think these are correct. These are the hex codes. Let's look at these side by side. 41, F6, 416, 20AC, and 1D11E. Yeah, so these all look correct. And then I can verify this inside the test. So New Shell, for example, also runs on Windows and Starship as well. Yeah, I'll have to try some of these other ones. I looked at conemu briefly, but I didn't really try it out for very long. And that's just I know that's just a terminal emulator. That's not really the same thing as a shell. Sorry, I know this is probably pretty boring to watch, just formatting these strings into Fortran literals. So I think that's okay, but I have to explicitly cast it to integer if I want this to work in the GitHub Actions CI, because it uses a different version of the G-Fortran compiler. So let's see if that compiles. Okay, that compiled. And then I want to actually test this. So I've converted it, but I haven't compared this string to the expected set of code points. So trying to think, like, should this count as 5 tests, or should it just count as 1 test? I guess it doesn't really matter. It's probably easier if I make them all 1 test. By the way, can your Rust do this? So I have an array of integers for my UTF-32s, and I have an array of expected values. I could just compare all of them. That gives me a Boolean array, and then I can use this all function, which is built into Fortran, which tells me if everything in the array is true. So that's the quick way to do array comparisons in Fortran. Okay, so that's saying 9 tests now. Let's see if I can break the test. Oh, yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Or just directly compare the arrays. Yeah. I should learn more Rust. Just gives you one boolean. Is it like, do you use the map function, or what do you use to do that? Let's see if I can break these tests. So if I change that, the test should fail. Okay, so there's one failure. And if I change something in the middle, that should also fail. For just one boolean. Oh, you can just directly compare arrays. Oh, okay. This should also fail. All right, and then if I go back and undo that, this should pass now. All right, it's looking good. I probably don't want to print these in here. And I don't want to print the string in the other test either. I need to work on better logging for my tests. For example, if a test fails, I don't really know which one failed, so I need to work on that at some point. Yeah, if you want one for each element in the array, you have to use zip and map. Yeah, I've seen that a little bit. When I was doing my project and trying to avoid ND algebra or ND array, I ended up doing a lot of mapping for like dot products and array addition and array subtraction and things like that. Okay, so I think that's the way I want this testing log to look, for now at least. And I want a reference. I already have a link to this somewhere else. I think I can commit this. Trailing white space. I hate trailing white space. There we go. I need to refill my coffee, so I will be back in a minute. Alright, we're back. Looks like everything passed on the cloud. So we have 9 tests there now as well. So I think that's all the testing that I wanted to do for today. Obviously, the thing that I'm missing is that I'm not testing any of the actual typesetting. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet. The problem is, like, I have so many bugs to fix with, like, the kerning and these exclamation marks that shouldn't be there. So, like, if I add tests now, every time I fix one of these, I have to update my tests. So I should probably do that kind of soon anyway. Like, I shouldn't use that as an excuse to not test, but I'm not ready to do it right now. Yeah, so I think maybe the exclamation marks are the next thing that I want to do today. So I'm not sure why those are there. Should be a clean slate. Yep. So I think there are some edge cases in my get index function that maps Unicode code points to glyph indices. I think there are some edge cases where I'm not handling things correctly. So the first thing is that we're checking if the code point is less than the end code of the segment, but we're not checking the start code of the segment. We're comparing the start code to the end code, but we're not comparing the start code to the UTF code point. So if the UTF code point is less than the start code, I think we should return the missing glyph. So it's going to be something like this. So I think that should be a missing glyph. I'm not sure if this is my exclamation mark bug or not. We'll find out. Okay, so I changed the kerning, but that didn't change the exclamation marks. And then the other thing is that I'm only working. Okay, so we handled this. The other thing is that I'm only working with CMAP format 4. CMAP format 4 is only for 2-byte code points. Format 4 is a 2-byte encoding format. So if you try to typeset like something that's outside of the basic multilingual plane, I think it's going to crash. So we should be able to test this. Like if I try to typeset an emoji, it shouldn't work. Let's put it here. I think this should crash. Yep. Yeah, so what happened is we overflowed the CMAP encode because like the code point for that emoji, it's greater than FFFF. But with a 2-byte encoding, you can't have anything greater than FFFF. So we keep looking for more encodes of the segments, but we don't find one, and we end up overflowing the array. This is something that a memory-safe language with Rust would probably help with, but Fortran is about as unsafe as C. The nice thing is that at least there's a compiler option to check the bounds. So if you compile with the options that I'm using, it will tell you which line of code it's crashing on and like which array index is too big or too small. So I think it's a little bit better than C in that regard, but like I'm not a C expert, so I could be wrong. Yeah, array overflows aren't really a thing in Rust. Unfortunately, they are in Fortran. So I think we should be able to catch that. Yeah, because this loop just keeps checking more and more segments, but it doesn't check if it goes beyond the number of segments. So if that overflows, then we can just return the missing character glyph again. And this could happen if you're trying to look up the glyph of like a 4-byte code point. Yeah, and this should be general so that if I support different CMAP formats in the future, this should still be okay. Like if I put a hard-coded check at the beginning, if the code point is greater than FFFF, that wouldn't be flexible because that wouldn't extend to 4-byte code points. But this should be more general. So again, probably don't need a missing character glyph comment on every one of these. This should fix the crash. All right. And then just like you see in my terminal, the font that I'm using, it's a 2-byte font, so it doesn't have this emoji. We should get like a missing character glyph right here. Yeah, and there we go. That's the missing character glyph. Now I'm still not really sure why I have exclamation marks instead of spaces. Because you can see in the strings that I'm trying to typeset, there are just spaces here. I don't know where the exclamation marks are coming from. So I need to do a little more in-depth debugging to figure out what's going on with these exclamation marks. So let's do a string that's not as long. Let's just do A space B. Try to typeset that. Yeah, so we have this exclamation mark in the middle. It shouldn't be there, so let's try to get rid of that. I don't know if it's in my glyph index lookup or if... I mean, it's not a missing character glyph because we just saw the missing character glyph. It's like a box with an X through the middle of it. So it's not that for a space. I don't know if the font defines a glyph for a space or how it handles white space. So I want to print that. And yeah, I think I want to print the index too. Justice rebooted again. Windows says with update 3 minutes, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, it always takes so long. This computer that I'm using, this is my personal computer, and it's not super fast. The Windows updates take forever, and it kills me. So I have to be really careful to like do it in the middle of the night or at some time where I'm not planning to do anything with my computer. It's super frustrating. So let's see what this is for the space. Oh, this is already converted to UTF-32. It's not really what I wanted. So in drawString, I just want to print the string before I convert it from UTF-8 to UTF-32. It should already say that. So it says drawing string, oh, AB, okay. And then here, I don't want to print this like it's a string. It's U plus, yeah, so this format is a string, and then hex. Why would you want UTF-32? Because I need the code point. And UTF-32 is the code point, as far as I understand Unicode. First of all, welcome back to the stream, Maestran. It's been a while. Yeah, so the way that these fonts are defined is like for the letter capital A, you have the Unicode code point, and that is mapped to a certain glyph index. So to be able to look up the index of the glyph in the font, you have to know the code point, and this is UTF-32. So that's why I need to know the UTF-32 value. Yeah, I'm not really like an expert in Unicode, so I'm probably like using the wrong terminology. So sorry if I say anything confusing about UTF-32. Okay, so I want to print this. I'd usually parse the code points from UTF directly, but fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's an easier way to do this. But like the character A. So like if I go to a hex editor, let's just do the actual string that I'm typesetting, A space B. So if I look at these values in a hex editor, 6-1. Okay, yeah, and then UTF-32, it is just 6-1. Yeah, so maybe there's a simpler way to do this, but I feel like this would only work for a Latin script. For non-ASCII characters, I think I have to go to UTF-32. Maybe not. Maybe I'm doing this in a more complicated way than I need to. Okay, so we have glyph index. Okay, 20. Is 20 a space? I need to check the ASCII table. 20 in hex. 20 is a space, so that's correct. And then the glyph index is 3. So glyph index 3, that seems correct. So why am I ending up with an exclamation mark? Because there's no path data? So you do have to convert to code points, but it can be done one character at a time on demand. Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, you're right about that. So, the way that I'm doing this is this takes a UTF-8 string, and I convert the whole string from UTF-8 to UTF-32. And I don't really need to do it that way. I did it this way because it seemed easier, and then I iterate through this UTF-32 array of code points. So there is memory overhead for that. Like, you don't need to store them both in memory simultaneously. You could just go through the UTF-8 string one character at a time and convert one character at a time instead of having the whole string. Yeah, so you're right about that. I just thought this was slightly easier to program. I don't know. So what is up with glyph index 3? I don't know how difficult it would be to do on-demand in Fortran. It really wouldn't. I had to write these transcoding functions myself. So, like this to UTF-32 function, I had to write this myself. And this is how you would do it on demand. Like, it's not that hard. You just need a loop. And then you convert one character at a time inside the loop. So I would just basically have to copy and paste this code into my other function. And it wouldn't be that hard, but I'm lazy, so I haven't done it. Justice is back. Welcome back from the Windows update. Yeah, I don't know what is up with the space. So I feel like somehow because the path is empty, I'm just getting the path of the next character, and then that would be the exclamation mark. But I'm not sure how that's happening. Are links allowed? Yeah. Do you mean like in the chat? Yeah, feel free to post a link. Oh, we've got Justice posting a link first. This better not be Rick Astley. I don't know if I want to play this because I don't know how well the audio is going to come through. Oh, wow, that is small. I looked at the example on Rosetta Code, and then I translated that from C to Fortran, but this looks even shorter. Seems like it's basically the same, just a bunch of bitwise operations, ands and ors and shifting. Wait, it can do UTF-16? Because I only have UTF-8 to UTF-32. I don't have anything to deal with UTF-16. I'd rather not, because like it's it's kind of deprecated. Yeah, you don't want to do anything with UTF-16. Oh, Rust strings all use UTF-16? Why? Oh, UTF-16 is actually easier than UTF-8, I think. I don't know. It seems like UTF-8 is more common, and then like the only reason people use UTF-16 is because Windows uses UTF-16 in some situations. But even Windows, I think, is starting to move away from UTF-16. Yeah, UTF-8 is often smaller than UTF-16. Yeah, that's true for ASCII. Uh, I feel like I'm sort of biased as like a native English speaker. Like, of course, I want my text encoding to work well with ASCII, but like even if you use like an extended Latin alphabet, then you're not going to get those advantages from UTF-8 because it's going to be using 2 bytes per character anyway. Yeah, you don't have to deal with different character byte lengths than UTF-16, but you do because there could be some that are 4 bytes, like for emojis. Those are more than 2 bytes. Yeah, yeah. UTF-16 was great when all of Unicode fit into 16 bits, but now with variable length encoding, like it's not that much easier. Yeah. Uh, where was I reading about that? I think just the Wikipedia page on UTF-16. Yeah, so UTF-16 arose from an earlier obsolete fixed width 16-bit encoding once it became clear that more than 2 to the power 16 code points were needed. So like initially, I guess people thought that like 65,000 would be enough for like every character in every language, but it's not. So I still don't understand how I'm getting an exclamation mark instead of a space. What if I put an actual exclamation mark in here? Yeah, space might not have a glyph. That's what I was thinking, but like if that's the case, I should get the undefined glyph when I try to typeset a space. It's like we're sort of clearly getting the same data for a space and an exclamation mark. So this is the space. It says glyph index 3, and then this is the exclamation mark, and it says glyph index 4, and that's right. But then like the number of points and the contours and the end data, that's the same between the space and the exclamation mark. Yeah, space still has metrics, so I probably get an empty glyph that I'm not detecting. Yeah, I think you're right. I'm not sure how it's happening though. have it might have like the same glyph offset somehow. Oh. So we might be reading the same thing here for the offset of the glyph. But I don't think I'm parsing that correctly. I have not parsed TTF files myself, but I think both stbtt and freetype, you do need to check for empty glyphs to correctly handle space. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm running into the same problem. Let me look at the bounds. This is going to print so much. You can redirect it. So that's unreadable. I need to like print something else to break it up. Yeah, so several of these glyphs all have the same offset. So I think these are all somehow mapped to the exclamation mark. But they should have different xmin and xmax bounds somehow. Maybe this isn't coming from the glyph table. Maybe this is coming from like HTMX or one of the other tables that I'm not parsing. Because it says the bounds are undefined for a space, but it shows, yeah, it has the advance width of 681. And the advance width, I think that comes from like the HTMX table. Or HDMX. Oh. Well, if anybody has dyslexia, these tags of the tables have to be impossible to work with. Advance width, yeah. So the HMTX table has the advance width, and I'm not parsing that correctly. So that's where that's coming from for the space. But I'm not sure how to detect that like they all have the same offset, 2D48, and that's for the exclamation mark. Like if we look at the bounds of this, it's xmin 174 to 391. Yeah, they're all 174 to 391. And there are like 3 or 4 glyphs in a row that are all the same. but they shouldn't be. It should be like 3 types of white space and then the exclamation mark. So there's something with the way that I'm reading the glyphs that's wrong. This is why I use STB, TT, or free type. Yeah, any sane person would do that. They would use a library to parse these files. They wouldn't do it themselves. I'm just doing it for fun. I don't have a good reason to do it like this. So I think I'm kind of stumped on this for now. I'm not sure how to fix that. Is there anything else I want to do in today's stream? We got some testing done, so that was nice. How easy C libraries are to use from Fortran? It's not that bad. You have to there's name mangling, so like the compiler changes the name of the function. Like if I had a C function that was named read glyph, then I might have to call it like read glyph underscore on Linux, or all caps read glyph on Windows without an underscore. So this is called name mangling. I forget which one is which one is Linux and which one is Windows. But like they have different names on different operating systems, so you can call Fortran functions from C, and vice versa. So you can call C functions from Fortran. That part isn't that bad. Where you run into trouble is if there are structs. So like if you have a structure in C, it might not be easy to have that same structure in Fortran. You have to like break it down into built-in types in the language, and then like write a wrapper to construct that for you. But as long as the libraries are using primitive types, then it's not that bad. Yeah, I might just cut the stream short today, because I did a lot yesterday. Let me quickly scan through my to-do notes. A lot of C libs use structs in interface though, because it makes things more sane on the C side. Yeah. Yeah, so that makes it more difficult for Fortran. Maybe I want a canvas constructor. And then sometimes you might have to decode macros to figure out how the structs are defined. Yeah, that makes it difficult. I think there was something in here that I wanted to rename. And now that I have unit testing, I can change things in here without worrying about bugs that I haven't noticed. And I can just delete this because I'm not using this code. Whoa, not that. think that's about the extent of things that I wanted to rename. I generally write C++ myself, which makes using clibs quite trivial since most clibs don't do anything that C++ doesn't like. Yeah, those are pretty easy to interface with each other. All right, yeah, thanks for tuning in, Justice. I think I'm going to end the stream soon anyway. I did a lot yesterday, so I didn't want to take on anything huge today. I think maybe I want a constructor for the canvas. In Rust, using clibs is quite easy as well. Yeah. I haven't used Zig at all. I should play around with Zig a little bit. I've been hearing a lot about it recently. Like the average C library has if def C++ extern C wrapped around, which solves the name mangling part. Yeah, Fortran is similar. When you declare a C function, you have to call it extern C. Or no, the other way around. If you want to call a Fortran function from C++, you have to declare it as extern C. So I think I want a canvas constructor that takes a width and a height and a background color and initializes the whole canvas to the background color and allocates it for you. Even though I'm only using it in one place right now. Actually, I think the tests could use it. Yeah, so the tests could use it, for the allocation at least. And then this test also initializes. So I want a function called new canvas, and that will take the width and the height and the background, and it will return this thing. Extern C disables C++ fancy name mangling that encodes types so that overloading can work. Oh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because C doesn't have generics like that. So what are these types? I think they're just integers. Yeah, they're just default integers. And then color is integer 8. Or no, it's integer 4. Okay. Raw C++ symbols look like random string, vector, random string. Yeah. I think that's for DLLs. I think when you have static libraries, they don't have so many random strings like that. But then you can't overload. Yeah, so this is not much of a constructor. All it does is allocate and then set the background color. So I wasn't missing out on too much by not having a constructor for this. Oh, then the result. CV is int 4. I think that's it. And then I could add checks in here to make sure that the width is positive and the height is positive. But I might not do that for now. Still seems to work. Oh. This did not work. Because GIMP can't load the file now. I don't think I didn't set the width anywhere. Yeah, these are just totally uninitialized. What were these? I have to look at the diff to remember. It's 800 by 945. Oh, and I took the example symbol from a binary with obj dump, so it's an actual mangled name of something. Yeah, I believe you. I didn't think you just typed that out manually. There we go. Okay, so now I have a constructor. I can use that in my tests too. So instead of allocating and setting the background on two separate lines, we can just do CV equals new canvas, 300 by 200 by the color. And yeah, so like I mentioned with the round trip testing of Unicode, I still have a problem where I'm only round trip testing these images. So if I write garbage for the image and then read back the same garbage, this test will still pass. So I need to actually test, I need to look at this image to verify that it's what I expect it to be. That's not what I want to run anyway. I want to run the tests. And then I need to look at this image to make sure that it makes sense. I think it's this one. This might not exist anymore. Let me just open it up from scratch. Yeah, this is from right now. Okay, so this image still looks like what it's supposed to look like. That's good. Let's do the other test image. This is still 3 by 2. It doesn't really matter what the background color is because this is a 3 by 2 image and we set all 6 pixels explicitly here. So I could just make the background black. It shouldn't matter. And then I want to look at that image too. That still looks okay. So I think that might be it for today. I might commit and then end the stream. Yeah, sorry I didn't get too much done. It was mostly testing and then scratching my head over why I'm typesetting a space as an exclamation mark. Yeah, but I feel like I did a lot yesterday, so I wanted to kind of take it easy today. Let's get that committed. All right, let's see if that runs on the cloud. Like I said, white space, not just spaces, but that's the most common in TTFs, can be funky. Yeah, like there are several of these characters. I don't know what glyph 1 is. I think glyph 1 has special meaning. I think like the TTF spec says that glyph 1 has to be just nothing. Glyph 0 has to be this unknown glyph thing, which is usually like some kind of box with an X or a question mark. But then there are like 2 of these glyphs that are weird. Like this one, I'm also interpreting as an exclamation mark too. I'm not really sure what it is. And then this one, this is the space. This is getting messed up too. So there are a few glyphs that I'm not handling correctly. This is probably done by now. Yeah, Ubuntu is done. Mac and Windows are still going. So yeah, it did 9 tests. And then the app ran too, not just the tests. So yeah, I think that's it for today. Thanks to everybody who tuned in, and I will catch you next time. Bye.